Megan Smythe, a single mom to triplets, shares her experience of raising three energetic 3-year-old boys on her own. She emphasizes the importance of teaching them basic chores and independence from a young age to manage her mental health and daily responsibilities. As Megan's situation highlights, being a sole parent to multiples can be challenging, but with intentional parenting and community support, it is possible to provide a stable and loving environment for children. The New York Times editorial board published a scathing one-paragraph attack on Donald Trump, calling him unfit to lead and warning that another term would be disastrous for the country. The piece highlights Trump's corruption, lawlessness, and threats to democracy. As the election nears its end, expect more intense campaigning from both Harris and Trump as they battle for key swing states, with a possible deadlock in polling. John Leguizamo went undercover as a Trump Super PC member for The Daily Show, trying to convince 6 undecided Latino voters to change their minds. Despite showing them clips of Trump's inflammatory comments, the voters remained loyal to Trump and said they wouldn't be swayed by endorsements from Latino celebrities. A recent poll showed Trump leading among Latino voters by 11 points, highlighting a challenge for Democrats in the upcoming election. The author recalls conversations with Jeffrey Epstein, a friend of Donald Trump's who was appalled by Trump's rise to presidency despite his own moral flaws. The author notes that Epstein was obsessed with Trump and personally afraid of him, and that their conversations took place in Epstein's Manhattan mansion. The article highlights the need for further understanding on how a predator like Donald Trump ended up in the White House while another, Jeffrey Epstein, ended up in prison. The city of Miami relocated 50 homeless individuals from a shelter in mainland Miami to a hostel on South Beach after Kamala's House, their previous shelter provider, shut down operations. The move has been attributed to a contract dispute between the city and Kamala's House, but some officials believe it was political retaliation for the city's decision to repeal a ballot item asking residents if they should add a 1% food and beverage tax to support homelessness services. The sudden relocation of homeless individuals to a residential area has raised concerns about the treatment of vulnerable populations and the potential for further conflict between the city and its officials. Berkshire Hathaway, led by Warren Buffett, has reduced its stake in Apple for the second time this year. The company's holdings in Apple have decreased from $174.3 billion at the end of 2023 to just under $70 billion in the third quarter of 2024, representing a 2/3 cut over the past year. Expect Berkshire Hathaway to continue selling off its shares in Apple and growing its cash stockpile, potentially reaching $350 billion by the end of 2024. A judge in Georgia dismissed a Republican lawsuit that sought to block voters from hand-returning mail-in ballots over the weekend, citing state law that allows voters to hand in mail ballots until polls close on Tuesday night. This ruling is likely to benefit Democratic candidates in Georgia, where early voting ended on Friday and polls are expected to be closely contested. 2 teenagers are dead and 1 is hospitalized with serious injuries after a suspected DUI crash in Riverside on Saturday. The 17-year-old driver of a gray Lexus sedan was speeding and ran a red light, crashing into another car driven by an adult male who was not injured. The Lexus then caught fire and struck several objects before coming to a stop. Police suspect alcohol and drugs contributed to the crash, which is likely to lead to increased enforcement of DUI laws in the area. Kamala Harris is close to making history as the first woman president, but the public still needs to get comfortable with her. Despite being in the spotlight since July, people are still trying to know who she really is. Her team has effectively shown that she'd be a calm and empathetic leader, but she's been vague about her policies and has trouble separating herself from Joe Biden. As Election Day approaches, Harris' campaign will need to continue defining her image and policies to win over voters, while also countering Trump's attacks on her liberal record. Philadelphia Eagles star Jason Kelce was caught on camera, smashing a man's phone after being heckled with a homophobic slur by a crowd while he was making an appearance on ESPN's College Game Day at Penn State campus. The incident highlights the ongoing issue of hate speech and harassment in public spaces, and it remains to be seen how this situation will unfold as campus police have not yet received an incident report. Atlanta United stunned Inter Miami 2-1 in a first-round playoff game, forcing Game 3 with a crowd of 68,455 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Dan Silva scored the game winner for Atlanta in extra time, after Derek Williams equalized in the 58th minute. The decisive Game 3 will be Saturday at 8 p.m. at Chase Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, where Atlanta United will look to stay alive and force a best-of-3 series against heavily favored Inter Miami. Rapper YNW Melly, who has been behind bars since 2019, is suing the Broward Sheriff's Office for egregious violations of his constitutional rights. He claims to have been kept in total isolation with no contact with the outside world and restricted from meeting with his legal team. The lawsuit alleges that Melly has been subjected to debilitating isolation, which could impact his mental health and ability to prepare for a retrial scheduled for 2025, where he faces the death penalty if convicted. Miami Hurricanes freshman cornerback O.J. Frederick Jair's interceptions sparked a defensive turnaround against Duke, as the Blue Devils' final 7 possessions resulted in 3 points and 3 turnovers after being dominated 53-31. Expect Miami's defense to continue its strong play, potentially carrying over into future games, with key contributors like O.J. Frederick Jair and Francis Moigoa leading the way. The Republican National Committee (RNC) has secured access for GOP poll watchers to observe the counting of absentee ballots in 4 blue-leaning counties in Georgia, including Fulton County. The move comes after the RNC threatened to sue the county over its decision to keep election offices open on weekends for voters to turn in absentee ballots. The outcome of this dispute may have implications for future elections in Georgia and could set a precedent for other states. Miami Hurricanes cornerback Jadice Richard was carted off the field with an injury after intercepting a pass in their 53-31 win over Duke. The team's already thin secondary will be down to 6 healthy scholarship cornerbacks if Richard misses time. The Miami Hurricanes will likely face challenges on defense as they navigate injuries to key players, including cornerback Jadice Richard and defensive end Elijah Alston. Donald Trump has defended comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's remarks at a Madison Square Garden rally where he called Puerto Rico garbage and made anti-Semitic jokes. Trump claimed he had no say over the comedian's contribution, didn't hear the joke, and blamed Democrats for making it a big deal. Expect continued controversy surrounding Donald Trump's handling of the situation, with potential backlash from Puerto Rican leaders and Democratic officials. Debbie Mellencamp, former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star, announced her split from husband Edwin Arroyo after 13 years of marriage. She cited a desire to protect her family from speculation and rumors as the reason for going public with their divorce. As Teddy Mellencamp and Edwin Arroyo navigate their new chapter as co-parents, fans can expect more updates on how they prioritize their children's well-being amidst the significant life change. Hulk Hogan expressed support for former President Trump, calling his supporters highly insulted after being referred to as garbage. Hogan proposed a potential role in a future Trump administration alongside RFK Jr. to promote healthy eating and fitness for America's youth. Expect further controversies surrounding the Biden administration's comments on Trump supporters, with Hulk Hogan potentially joining forces with Trump in a future administration to promote health and wellness initiatives. Actress Drea De Matteo claims to be a Donald Trump supporter and says she's not alone in Hollywood. She attributes her lack of work in the industry to her conservative views, but also mentions that some colleagues have supported Trump as well. The article suggests that there may be more people in Hollywood who support Donald Trump than previously thought, potentially challenging the notion that the entertainment industry is overwhelmingly liberal. U.S. crude production hit a new all-time monthly high in August, reaching 13.4 million barrels per day, led by Texas and New Mexico firms. This complicates OPEC+'s plans to increase output in December, as the global oil surplus could swell to 1.2 million barrels per day next year. Expect a delay in OPEC+'s planned output increases due to record U.S. production and weakening demand, potentially leading to a continued oil price decline. Veteran strategist Bill Blaine predicts a rocky 12 months ahead for the stock market due to entrenched global inflation and higher interest rates. He expects a 7-12% decline in stocks, driven by a credit crunch that could crimp lending and slow deal-making. Investors should not expect a return to near-zero borrowing costs and should prepare for a more realistic interest rate range of 4.56%, which could lead to higher interest payments and a correction in the stock market. Residents of Pine Cove in Riverside County were advised to evacuate or shelter in place due to a propane truck leak on Saturday morning. Evacuation orders were lifted after crews mitigated the leak at 1:39 p.m. The incident highlights the importance of emergency preparedness and response in mountain communities, where access to resources may be limited. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are playing defense in North Carolina, a state Trump won in 2016 and 2020. Vance held a rally with a thin crowd, while Trump is flying in for a major rally on Saturday night. The low turnout at Vance's event highlighted the singularity of the Trump movement, where secondary characters like Vance are celebrated only as long as they align with Trump's agenda. As Election Day approaches, it remains to be seen whether Trump and Vance can secure North Carolina, a crucial state in the presidential election. The low turnout at Vance's rally suggests that his message may not resonate with voters outside of the Trump base. The No. 5-ranked Miami Hurricanes defeated Duke 53-31 on Saturday, improving their record to 9-0. Cam Ward threw for 5 touchdowns and 400 yards, and Xavier Restrepo caught 3 TDs, including a 66-yarder that broke UM's all-time receiving records. The win keeps the Canes' ACC title hopes and college football playoff standing intact, and they are likely to rise to No. 4 in the rankings by weekend's end. The WSJ Magazine Innovator Awards honored boundary-pushing trailblazers in various industries, including Apple's Tim Cook, Salma Hayek, and Ariana Grande. The ceremony featured a star-studded red carpet with appearances by Reese Witherspoon, Penelope Cruz, Linda Evangelista, and other celebrities. Expect more recognition of innovators and artists who push culture forward in the coming months as WSJ Magazine continues to celebrate their achievements. The article reports on the results of 11 horse racing events, with winners and odds listed for each event. No major news or updates were reported in this article, as it only provides a summary of the horse racing events. Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a speech in Atlanta, Georgia, where she attacked former President Trump, praising young voters and Generation Z for their determination to bring change. She vowed to crack down on grocery price gouging, lower health care costs, and cut taxes for small businesses. As Election Day approaches, the outcome in Georgia remains uncertain, with both Harris and Trump pouring resources into the state. The counties leading in turnout percentage have been largely rural, Republican-leaning areas, but bluer counties like DeKalb and Fulton have outpaced them in sheer numbers. The Israeli Defense Forces (IDF) have released video showing the discovery of a Hamas underground weapons manufacturing facility in central Gaza. The facility, located beneath civilian population, contained workshops and supplies for producing rockets, shells, and grenades, as well as diving equipment intended to infiltrate Israel by sea. This development highlights the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, with Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei also making threats against Israel and the U.S. Expect further escalation in the region as tensions continue to rise. Former Trump supporter Nick Fuentes has criticized Donald Trump for his recent behavior, including dressing up as a garbage man at rallies. Fuentes, who was once a loyal supporter and dinner guest of Trump's, now believes that Trumpism is a cult due to the blind obedience of Trump's supporters. Fuentes' criticism of Trump marks a significant shift in his views, but it remains unclear whether he has abandoned his racist and anti-Semitic ideologies. Miami Hurricanes Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo set multiple records in a 53-31 comeback win over Duke Blue Devils on Saturday. Ward threw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, tying Steve Walsh's record for most passing touchdowns in a season by a Hurricane, while Restrepo caught 8 passes for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns, tying the Hurricanes' record for career receptions and surpassing Santana Moss' record for most career receiving yards. The duo's chemistry has been key to Miami's perfect record this season, and they will look to continue their success in upcoming games as they head into conference play. Miles Brundage, former head of policy research at OpenAI, left the company to pursue policy research in the non-profit sector. He believes that within the next few years, companies like OpenAI will develop systems capable of artificial general intelligence (AI), which can reason as well as humans. This raises concerns about sectors to tax and education investments. The development of AI is expected to arrive in a few years, prompting governments to consider policies for taxation and education investments. Donald Trump spread false conspiracy theories at a rally in North Carolina, claiming FEMA used funds for immigrants instead of disaster relief. This is despite a FEMA fact-check confirming that disaster funds cannot be used for other purposes. Trump's misinformation campaign has real-world consequences, making relief efforts more costly and difficult, and encouraging some people to deny assistance. Former Obama fundraiser Don Peebles contrasted Vice President Kamala Harris to the former president, stating that Obama was inspiring and represented change in America, while Harris is just another status quo candidate. Peebles also predicted a Trump victory in 2024, saying if this is a race about policy, he's going to win hands down. I see him winning. Peebles' prediction suggests that the 2024 presidential election may be more competitive than expected, with Trump potentially winning if the focus is on policy rather than personality. A new report by The Atlantic claims that Donald Trump considered using the derogatory term retarded Joe Biden to refer to President Joe Biden, but was dissuaded by campaign staffers. This is not the first time Trump has used similar language to insult his opponents, including Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. Trump's history of using derogatory language to describe his political opponents suggests a continued pattern of divisive rhetoric as Election Day approaches. Peanut, a beloved pet squirrel with over 550,000 Instagram followers, was confiscated and killed by New York State officials who claimed it was being kept illegally. The incident has sparked outrage on social media, with many celebrities and users expressing their shock and sadness at the rodent's death. The controversy surrounding Peanut's death highlights the complexities of wildlife ownership laws in New York State and may lead to increased scrutiny and debate about the treatment of exotic pets. Xavier Restrepo has surpassed Santana Moss as the Miami Hurricanes' all-time leading receiver with 2,573 yards after a 66-yard touchdown catch against Duke. He also tied Mike Harley's school record for career catches. Restrepo is expected to continue his strong season and potentially break more records in the remaining games of the Atlantic Coast Conference schedule. Donald Trump expressed skepticism about a Vote Common Good ad urging wives of Trump-supporting spouses to vote for Kamala Harris in secret, claiming that women wouldn't hide their political beliefs from their husbands. He also criticized Julia Roberts for her role in the ad. The ad highlights a YouGov poll finding that 1 in 8 women voted differently than their partners without telling them, sparking controversy among Trump supporters who see it as an attack on traditional relationships. Gen Z members are discovering Donald Trump's 2016 Grab Him comments, which were caught on tape in 2005 and resurfaced on TikTok. This is making older readers feel old, but it's a good thing that young people have access to learn about recent history. The fact that Gen Z is learning about the 2016 election through social media platforms like TikTok is a positive development for an informed electorate. Elon Musk's mother, Mae Musk, appeared on Fox News and suggested that she could visit polling stations in New York to recast several votes, implying that it would be easy to vote multiple times without ID. She later repeated the statement, failing to acknowledge its illegality. This incident highlights concerns about voter integrity and potential election interference, as Republicans continue to accuse Democrats of voter fraud across different states.